Today, we talk about the satire. So, you may be wondering, why do I look so ridiculous? And part of that may have to do with the fact that I did not go to a religious military academy in high school. And that's kind of a little spoiler alert for what we'll be discussing today. A lovely book that I had the pleasure of reading, written by friends of mine, their debut book, and I was very excited to review it for them. My first ever book review on this channel. Not really much of a reader. Don't really like it too much. That's why I spend all my time on YouTube. But I was just so excited for these guys. I'm so excited. And I was lucky enough that they blessed me with a gifted copy, a rare, I guess, sample book, because it's got a altered book sleeve-ish, personally signed for me. Author's name being Francolo. And this is Where Boys Become Men, Untold Antics from an All-Male Religious Military Academy. And just to give you a little snippet from the back, verbal abuse, physical discipline, grit, and testosterone-fueled nonsense. High school at my all-male religious military academy was all of that and much more. Inside the academy's walls were hundreds of adolescent boys, and without any substantial female presence to rein in our aggressive, crude, and disgusting nature, we fought, pranked each other, said and did revolting things, and we loved every second of it. Hey, yo. Now, I went through and I gotta tell you, man, I'll tell you how excited I really was to read this book, because I don't really read books. I think the last time I read a book front to back was in middle school, maybe. So this was a big deal for me. Great read, fantastic read, and I can't wait to break it down for you. Now, I'm not gonna spoil the whole book for you, but what I will say is the, I guess, preface and first chapter of the book give a lot of clues as to what kind of book this is, and that's really where I'm going to focus on, but I'll touch on a couple other things throughout the book that I thought were O.D. All right, so first thing that caught my eye was the foreword in the beginning, or I don't know if you call it foreword, but for the Academy, its students, teachers, administrators, and supporters, past, present, and future, and for the troops, for their never-ending service to this country. Hoorah! Hoorah! Yeah, boy. All right, so setting the tone right up front, and it goes right into the Pledge of Allegiance is included. Nice touch. The basic premise is how, being raised in a religious environment, and by the way, the author, one of the all-time funniest human beings I've ever met in my entire life. I've never been around someone that can make people laugh so consistently, no matter the context, no matter the situation, and that's why I was very excited to get my hands on this written material. So, raised Catholic, got to know them very well in college. But at the end of 5th grade, his parents said, yo, you gotta pick a private school for us to take you to. And first one on the list is the school he ended up going to. And given the events that transpired in the preface, when he did a shadowing of the school, he pretty much knew this was the place to be. And the first thing that catches me right off the bat, he gets brought in to shadow an 8th grader for a day. And he's describing how he's walking the halls, everything's quiet, and all of a sudden the bell rings and the hall is flooded with kids, one of which pulls the ultimate Michael Scott move, an upperclassman with his fly open and his finger poking through to mimic a penis, chasing a junior high student down the hall, wagging his finger dick. Oh my God. And then shortly thereafter followed by another upperclassman, morbidly obese, trolled down the hall with his pants around his ass, revealing his unsightly crack. The writing in this book, as I will demonstrate to you, is uncanny. And I'm no literature expert or nothing like that, clearly, as I just described. I don't really read books like that. But I just appreciate a book with diction that I can follow and enjoy in an edutainment type of way. So this is all followed with a senior army instructor coming barreling down the hall with a head of steam, swiftly grabbing the upperclassman by the back of his belt, hoisted him off the ground, began publicly berating him for being grotesquely overweight, and subjecting the faculty and student body to the offensive sight of his ass crack. Oh my God. Sit down, pull your goddamn pants. I just had breakfast. I don't need to see your fat ass this morning. Sorry, sir. No one wants to see that shit first thing in the morning. Holy shit, tuck in your shirt and pull up your freaking pants. Oh my God, bro. I freaking lost it when I read this thing the first time. Let's just say my sides was destroyed. Holy shit, bro. And of course, it was at this moment, or it was with these chain of events, on his very first day, just shadowing, that he's like, is this the place for me? Yeah. Boom, done, decision made. Amazing. And honestly, the more I read of the book, the more jealous I got that I didn't get this kind of experience in high school. I mean, they're describing the holy men of the academy having life-size cardboard cutouts of The Undertaker from the WWE. Oh man, this writing. The office belonged to a man of faith, a man of religion who believed in a higher power, who also had a cardboard cutout of The Undertaker. And touching back on, my ridiculous outfit, this was beautiful. Everyone at the academy was their true self. We all wore a uniform, thereby allowing each of us to identify solely through our own personalities. Key. There was no material items that defined who we were. We behaved innately, but also held ourselves to a higher standard. To find my place among the student body, I needed to excel in the classroom, on the field, or show my true colors with my words and behavior. In this way, I was free of social and societal encumbrances that might have put false values on who I should be. Very well said. And I gotta tell you, man, I can only help but imagine that the amount of bullying I got for the kinds of clothes I wore, which I agree, man, like it made no sense to me at the time that people were picking on me for my clothes, but that's the whole reason I started to pay attention to clothes and shoes. And here we are, and I've dropped God knows how many thousands of dollars on clothing, which is just ridiculous, right? It's ridiculous. But it is what it is. And I can't help but think that a lot of that had to do with this childhood trauma that luckily these guys didn't. Well, they had plenty of trauma, and we'll get to that. But there's plenty of that in this book. But yeah, man, I love this piece about the uniform, and that's why I've always been a big proponent of high school kids abiding by a uniform. I think it's crucial, it's key. Everyone talks about, oh, you get to show your personality and be creative with your outfits and stuff. But I feel like, dude, at that age, that's like the least important thing to be focusing on right now. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know, man. It's like when you're a kid, there's only so many things you can do to set yourself apart. And one of those is clothing. And I feel like it's just the wrong message to send, especially with kids of different financial backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, whatever. It's like I don't like that being one of the priorities of things to differentiate yourself at that age. But we don't have to get into all of that. I'm just saying. See what I'm saying? Well, let's dive in. All right, so the first chapter, or I guess first real chapter, kind of dives into his first day starting at the academy as a Smurf. Because of the light blue shirts, dark blue ties, dark blue pants, dark blue sweaters, rhyming at scared junior high students, the Smurfs. And then kind of goes through all this stuff, which I don't want to spoil for you guys. But the one passage I thought, again, really highlights the amazing writing style of this book. And I call it amazing, and if you disagree because you're a literature Nazi or whatever, deal with it. This is my opinion. Deal with it. But anyway, check this out. So, he's describing these rolling bags that the kids that didn't know any better got when they arrived at school, or that the parents got them, I should say. And it was just a very easy target for upperclassmen to pick on them and kick the bags. And so he describes a scenario where what looked to be a Goliath of an upperclassman goon interrupted my stride by kicking my rolling bag like he was kicking a soccer ball intended to take the head off a goalkeeper. I spun around to gaze at my assailant and hopefully receive an apology for an accident as the hallway started to get crowded with the change of classes. I was wrong. As I looked up, the goblin upperclassman smirked and asserted himself as the more dominant figure. Get the fuck out of the way with that gay thing, Smurf. Excellent. Yo, I was dying when I read this. Just to go from get the fuck out of the way with that gay thing, Smurf, to next paragraph, first sentence, excellent, period. Bro, I was fucking dying, man. It's just great, the delivery in this book. And I may be biased because I know his personal sense of humor. So I can kind of connect it between what I know of him as a person and a character, and how his writing is reflected. And the best part to me is, I asked him, he said, "Yeah, I'm not like a professional writer. I didn't take like professional or college grade, high level, writing classes in college. It's just, this is how we do it." And that's the other reason why I loved reading this book, because it just was a raw, true delivery of who he is, and that to me is more interesting than just crafting a beautiful piece of art, which is all bullshit. Art is art, alright? And this is when we get introduced to a very interesting character called Colonel Sampson. And basically, the description of him is amazing. Popeye-esque forearms, red face wrought with scars that look like he'd survived a sand blizzard and desert storm, and it really highlighted an interesting point where, this kid just got bullied and no one kind of came to his rescue, right? But this man stepped in, seeing the events from afar, and just goes, "Listen, kid, next time some dipshit does something like that, either kick his fucking ass or throw that goddamn bag in the trash. Lesson learned." Oh man. And then he kind of foreshadows that, this will be a prominent figure in his personal development as a man. And I'm hoping I'm kind of conveying the kind of themes you're going to be seeing as to how this academy prepared these young men to go from boys to men. Hey. Now, I just want to briefly touch on this next subchapter where they discuss a typing class they've involved in it. And again, the descriptions of these people and these characters that are brought to light with words is just done so remarkably, hilariously, beautifully well, in my opinion. I mean, they're describing this typing teacher called Mrs. Burkus. Crinkled up old woman, short hair, gray from old age, looked like it had been tarnished into a harsh yellow color due to years of exposure to cigarette smoke, blah, 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 ongoing description that's all beautiful, but then this is the part that got me good. Then there were her hands. Holy shit, her fucking hands. Oh my God. Dude, it was just like line after line, just punch, punch, punch. I was dying, man. I hope I'm conveying this properly. Now again, another hilarious story, which I will not spoil for you, but long story short, just to give you some of the highlights, there's another teacher, again, with a fantastic description, similar to Mrs. Burkus. And it's this, I forget if he's an English teacher or what, but basically he's in charge of the spelling bee for them. And he's involving them in the spelling bee, and the guy gets the word couch, and he spells it C-O-U-C-H, couch. And the teacher says, nope, that's wrong. And the whole room is silent and confused. And I love this passage. He just kept staring at me. It was almost as if he wanted me to tell him if he was wrong or not. I didn't want to say anything, but for some reason my mouth started to open. My brain was telling me to wait it out, but apparently my mouth thought, fuck it. The use of italics here, I'm telling you, man, it's just like the creative use of all these different wording styles, which may not be grammatically appropriate or whatever to like a freaking, how apropos the fucking New York Times is building right out front here. So they may be, shivering in their boots just like, but to me, this is just like conveying the story in the most hilarious way possible. It's amazing. Now there's countless more stories in this book. One example of which, there's a kid who just did not know how to have proper hygiene. And he got berated by the teachers and got basically fed to the sharks in the school to help him learn how to become hygienic. And he became hygienic as a result. So again, another nuanced example of how certain styles of bullying could result in a upgrade in your life and making you a better person, and in these cases, better men. And I'm not advocating for bullying in any way, but I am saying it definitely has nuance to it and definitely is worth exploring, especially in the context of this book and the examples that they give. I think it's definitely well testified. Now there's another story later on in the book of a character named Kowalski.
Sorry, you meant Kowalski.
And they describe this Kowalski guy.
Sorry, you meant Kowalski.
As a nerd in the classic sense of the word, but the main difference here was he was a respected nerd because he knew who he was. He wasn't trying to be someone he wasn't, and he owned being a nerd. And I feel like I've started to kind of come into my own experiences with that over the past couple of years of just owning my own cringe, owning my own goofiness, you know what I'm saying? And it just shows because even at that age with those students and all the buffoonery that they were undertaking, they could respect a guy that was a nerd who was proud and representative of his nerdness, you know what I'm saying? And they described this hilarious event where he locked his knees during a school demonstration or some ish. I don't want to spoil the whole thing, obviously. But long story short, locked his knees, passed out, knocked over a bunch of people. It was a major display. Hilarious. But he owned it, and he came out of it unscathed. You know what I mean? They ended up calling it Kowalski.
Sorry, I meant Kowalski.
But it was hilarious because back when I met this guy in college, we were going through a frat initiation, and one of the guys in the frat initiation locked his knees and also passed out. And I remember him turning to me and be like, dude, you gotta know not to lock your knees. There's a whole strategy to it, blah, blah, blah. And he was bringing all these lessons from the academy. And little did I know there would later be, written into the book of, how he really learned it. But yeah, man, it's just great storytelling. I'm telling you. What I will say is the beautiful part about the structuring of this book is that within each chapter, it shows the hilariousness and the buffoonery of the students, mixed in with the dynamics with the teachers and administration and coaches and sporting events and whatnot. But it has a great way of tying it all together at the end and bringing out in each chapter at the end a lesson that was learned that led to them becoming less boyish and more mannish. You know what I'm saying? Really love that. And they brought up another great point later in this book, or at least a teacher did to the students, because I could imagine that, and this is probably a popular myth, I consider it a myth, where you hear, oh man, I could never go to an all-boys school, man. I need the chicks, bruh. It's like, no, bro. I always thought it was a distraction. I didn't have any game back then, you know what I mean? Still kind of don't. I always felt it was a distraction because, I was one of those nerds too, I felt like I was here to get educated. I'm trying to get into college. There's all this, stress I'm undergoing. Now I got to deal with being bullied and not being able to talk to women. It was just like a whole thing, right? And they really put it in perspective. They're just like, you got to be grateful that you are in a school of all guys because you think it sucks without girls, but you can't tell certain stories. You can't do the whole dick drawing competition all day, every day for 4 years. You know what I mean? Like those kinds of, and the kind of male bonding and camaraderie that would come from that kind of environment would not be possible if it was a co-ed environment. Not that a co-ed environment is bad, but these certain things that led to them learning certain lessons probably would have happened completely differently if there were, a mix of men and women. Because I noticed this with my own friends. If we're hanging out just as guys, the dynamic is totally different than when some girls show up. You know what I mean? Another passage I really enjoyed was, again, they were ending another chapter, and the lesson they were given in this chapter, they were talking about how some math teachers just couldn't last, and after going through all the hilarious stories with them, they were trying to basically say that, aside from either being a dumbass teacher or an unqualified teacher, or maybe even being a super good, quote, teacher, it didn't matter if they did not know how to relate to the students. Either taking themselves too seriously or trying not to joke around at all, forced, disingenuous, describing how the teachers that did get it and did relate to the students led them to actually doing better in the classes, doing better in the exams, and going on to doing better things. And I think this is a very powerful lesson for all teachers. It's like, listen, man, you can't think you're better than the room. And I've started to learn this in my own way with comedy, where it's like, listen, man, you gotta bring the crowd with you. They gotta relate to you, and that's the only way. Otherwise, you are not going to connect with people. And if you don't connect with people, they're not interested in anything you have to say, let alone anything you have to teach them. So great lesson here. I love this chapter. Absolute monster. And yeah, man, I think that should do it. Again, just a fantastic read. It was a great book. I absolutely loved every minute of it. And I hate reading. I hate books, and I enjoyed this. So I would highly encourage you guys to check it out. It is available on Amazon, I believe. Kindle and all those other things. I would assume just Google it; it should pop up. I'll put some links in the description actually for where you can get them. And yeah, man, highly encourage you guys to check this book out. It really makes me jealous that I didn't go to a military academy or an all-boys academy. I feel like that would have been a great experience. Just especially, I'd been to that school. With sports, we would play their school all the time in various sports. So, it was funny seeing the school and seeing the students, but now to get an insider look through this book was just a fantastic opportunity, and I really enjoyed it, guys. So thanks, Francolo, for the phenomenal piece of work, and yeah, check it out. We'll see you next time. We out. Peace.